I was asked at our very first neighborhood meeting, why here? It's always a big question, why are you coming here? And I look around at the people that I've gotten to know, got to meet. And it's the community. Jefferson County has something amazing going on, something great, and it's all centered around the people. It's all the people in the community that matter. That's why we're building on top of Red Mountain in Birmingham. That's why we want to be part of this community. That's why we're looking at areas in Bessemer, the Vestavia Hills, and Hoover, and even downtown Birmingham. We're very much excited about Jefferson County and what's going on here, and the people that make up the county. Here, specifically in unincorporated Jefferson County, we're requesting a rezoning for an age-restricted 55 and older community, as per one of the conditions. We've met multiple times with our neighbors. We've heard their concerns and even modified our plans to take those into account, because they're good ideas. And it matters to them, and it matters to us. So we've made those changes. We also met with the county regarding public services, specifically fire. Given our location and the Volunteer Shannon Fire Department no longer being operational, there was concerns regarding fire being able to serve our community, the response times with the county. And so we have met with Hoover Fire, and we are prepared to compensate Hoover Fire to expand their coverage to our area, which only helps our first responders in the county and reduce response times. Currently, at this point, we have, I believe Mr. Morrison indicated, that we have received staff recommendation for approval, given 5 conditions. Those 5 conditions, most of them we've actually exceeded. Those conditions are, again, that it be an age-restricted community as opposed to an age-targeted community. We have no problems with that. Our average resident is 73 years old. Any substantial changes to the plan that's been submitted needs to go through rezoning. That makes complete and total sense to us. Our design team has gone through many iterations, and we feel very comfortable with where we're at. And this is going to be the best path forward for not just our site, but also for the neighboring community.
Appreciate that. Go ahead and line that up if you would.
I will. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. The 15-foot landscape buffer, that was part of the conditions. We are exceeding that. The largest apartment building further east, and we've done that. And so our landscape buffer now is at 25 foot. And the closest home to that 4-story building, I believe, is 265 feet. Pretty substantial buffer. And it's also reduced in elevation, so it's not casting a shadow or attempting to block any views. The last item on that condition was the agreement. Agreement needed to be in place regarding the dam that's on a property line shared with the property owner to the north. We have met with Mr. Quinn. Unfortunately, Mr. Quinn's not able to be here today. He had an appointment he could not miss. But he gave me the authority to be able to speak and update the commission on where we stand on that.
Is that the same gentleman that spoke at the last meeting?
That is the same gentleman, Mr. Frank Quinn. Yes, sir. We were talking and working through easements to be able to maintain access to the dam and also the maintenance of the dam during construction and thereafter. And during those talks and trying to work through that, he said, why don't you just consider purchasing the property? And at his request, we looked at it and we have entered into an agreement. Mr. Morrison, I shared that with you. I've got copies that have been, I believe, dispersed so that you have a copy of that agreement. Yes, sir, that's the correct one. And so we are not asking that to be updated into the rezoning because we don't want to change the site plan. But when zoning is complete and the purchase is complete, we will be imposing those easements, and those easements will be filed at the court. the county level. So that the dam, the maintenance of the pond below and the pond above will have easements recorded at the county. That's all that I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Morrison, this
Yes, sir, that's
is
correct.
incorporated into our plan and we're good with it.
Yes, sir. Again, we just need to modify that language on that last condition to
Please state that, so.
read something that should the property not be sold, again, just in case the sale doesn't go through, and that way we've got some sort of protection there for whomever that property owner may be.
I have a question too.
Yes, ma'am.
With the changing of, the possible changing of this, rezoning, what else would be permitted to,
In that zoning
go into
district,
that community based on the zoning?
R7, the R7 zoning designation is unique in that you essentially rezone in accordance with a plan that's provided. So nothing would be allowed other than what they've shown to you on that site plan today. And as well as with the condition for the age-restricted residential community, that should, again, restrict it to anything
I'm not talking about them
else.
specifically, I'm talking about anyone else who would choose to do business.
Yes, ma'am. They would have to do the exact same plan or get rezoned again.
Okay. All right, Mr. President, I do have a, statement.
Well, let me see what we're still in the
Sure.
public hearing
No
right now.
problem.
One other person, is there any other different points that speaking for? Yes, sir.
Is he within 500 feet?
Are you within 500?
My name's David Angwin. I'm the pastor at Pine Haven Church. We've heard a lot about how it's going to benefit Shannon.
Can I ask a question before you get started? So is your church within 500 feet or you live within 500 feet?
The church,
Okay, so you're not a resident of that community?
correct.
Okay.
But what I wanted to let you know is not only is the sale of our property going to benefit Shannon, Jefferson County, and the surrounding areas, we have a ministry to where we provide housing for, it's basically a extended transition, okay, for people coming out of long-term rehab. I have 22 years clean and sober. I'm also a licensed independent clinical social worker, capital murder mitigation specialist, and psychotherapist. A lot of times I'm in the trenches of seeing the effects of addiction. Having worked in the field of addiction and people in recovery, a while back we saw a need that people needed to be able to have the opportunity to get out of the environments that they were in. A lot of times coming out of rehab, they have no money, they have no, no other options but to go back into the environments that they came out of. And frankly, I get really tired of having to do these and to see this. This was a young man who was going to work with our ministry. And his legacy is going to carry on. He didn't die of drugs or alcohol. He died of a heart attack from the abuse. A little too soon. But when I met him for the first time to interview him about working with us, he sat there, and he's a big guy too, and just cried about how he could not go back home. Okay.
But
I'll
this is very heartwarming, but
And
it's
so-
not about this property.
right. But the
So
sale,
let's-
to let you know, the sale of our property.
Let's stick to what is, I think,
Right. The sale of our property is going to benefit many, many more people than just. And where we move our ministry to, because Pine Haven is still going, okay, will benefit more and more people exponentially. Thank you.
May I ask a question before you leave?
Sure.
So here's my question, are you saying that Rise is purchasing your property? The
Church
church
property,
property? Oh, I'm clear, he doesn't live in the community.
yes,
You're saying that Rise is purchasing your property?
yes,
Okay, and you're saying the proceeds from the sale of your property would go to benefit the folks that you just mentioned?
yes.
Okay. Mr. President, but he can leave, once he finishes, he's gonna talk. Okay.
Thank
All right, show of hands, people for, do you have an eye?
I am for it, yes.
All right,
I have
hey,
something to say
just
about
show of hands, huh?
Okay.
Okay. All right, is there any other point that needs to be made? I think we've heard this pretty much.
I need to make a
And
point.
you've spoken.
I have one more point.
All right, yes, ma'am, you come over here. You live within 500 feet.
I represent some people that live within 500 feet, and I'm one of the people.
How are you, Commissioner?
I'm doing fine. I haven't been here a long time. I purposely stay away. This was interesting.
Well, here we are.
Yes, to the illustrious Jefferson County Commission. I do appreciate your service to all those 30 years and to people who I hadn't seen in a long time. I appreciate what you said, Mr. Carter, and to the HOA. In the beginning, when it was all forest, I was there. When the Oxmoor Valley Plan came together with Arrington several years ago, I was reporting on that as a reporter at City Hall. As a former county commissioner that represented this area, many times hearing from these residents who were not happy about development, I was there. I took the hit. Jefferson County took the hit. But I am also a licensed planning and zoning official for the state of Alabama for 17 years, so I understand where you are. I'm also a licensed real estate agent. I sold a house right next door, so my client is on top of the church and is in favor of this. And you all know him. I won't say his name here. I will tell you at a later time. But you're very familiar with him. He's building a facility. This land sits at the traffic light. There is Hoover on the other side of the light. On the left is Shannon. On the right is Bessemer. Across the street is Birmingham. The Oxmoor Valley Plan with U.S. Steel has always been a plan for development. It has always been designed to do that, and I say that because on the Birmingham side, Commissioner, there was the Oxmoor Plan with the 3 houses and the golf course. So now you have Robert Trent Jones trails where people travel from all over the world to come. Shannon didn't want that. It has been an asset for Birmingham. For Hoover, on the side when Tony Patelis was the mayor, but before that, Barbara was the mayor, and before that, Miss Virginia Williams, who worked for Birmingham and planning, moved over there. They couldn't make the road go over the train for the Ross Bridge, which is now one of the premier golf courses. In fact, Ross Bridge is the 4th largest golf course in the world. That's Hoover. I cut the ribbon to the road for Ross Bridge Parkway because Tony Patelis' team, prior to him being there, forgot they needed $11 million, and this county gave it to them to put that road. The meeting I went to at Pine Haven Church, where some of these residents were, is 200 people, had to be escorted in and out. They were upset. Cussed me out, called me all kinds of names. But today, we stand in solidarity. When Alto Tarver built where Nova Scotia is, I was there for that. It's kind of weird, really. I was there when the first tree hit by Triple H Ranch. We couldn't get into Ross Bridge. That's the way you used to come in. What I'm saying to you is that the tax impact alone for the county has been astronomical. We couldn't have called it. In fact, people said it wasn't going to work because it was too far. Those were the comments. The Shannon community didn't want it because they said we don't want all that traffic. But I'm here to tell you, as a representative who's seen all of it for 20 years, that it has benefited Jefferson County tremendously. The property values have gone up. For the original residents of Shannon, those property values were so low. So their property goes up. So the people that have already have contracts to sell, they're able to live that dream to do things. For the church that I stood in, that dogged me out, they have been so helpful to the community. In fact, during COVID, the pastor and attorney Marcelin, who run the church, opened it up to the community because we had no food and allowed food trucks to come and fed the community. That happened. That was Shannon, that was Birmingham, that was Hoover, and that was Bessemer. And these people had never come together except on that church lot that day, in those days, for a year, we ate together and finally met each other. So I sold the house right on top of the church. He's not moving, he's excited because on the beautification of it, because I did too meet with Rise, concerned about the beautification, concerned about management, because when we give these folks money, they go away and they sell to big companies and the place looks like a dump. I get it. For the church who wants to give to the community through their ministry, that's going to happen anyway. In my opinion, would be best, and I thank God for them, to move into a more rural setting than to have that population coming to the church where they can't get help. Because that's going to happen. One way or the other, that ministry is not going away. It might increase in the area by bringing the folks into the area, Mr. Carter, in that regard. So, Mr. Carter, to your point, the issue here is about beautification. That community, and you can pull the Oxmoor Valley plan from Richard Arrington, and you can pull the one from Hoover, and you can pull our plan that goes in the green space, Mr. Morrison. It's all designed to do exactly what it is. And you guys, it's about senior living, and there's more to come. There are two complexes there, and it's beautiful. The price points are beautiful, but you are saving lives. So I'm going to wrap up, Commissioners. I understand the time limit. I appreciate your time today. But I'm here to tell you I'm for the project because in the buffer zone, I get it, trees. But even, let me be clear about property, folks. It is not designed to be forever sometimes. When you move in, because you're a new resident, Mr. Carter, technically you're new. These folks have been here for their life, their entire life. You just said you came from New Hill, so we're not going to debate that. And also, I didn't see any of your documentation of all of the things. You were the only one here misrepresenting the facts from the neighborhood association. The HOA did want it. You came here as a lone soul to try to not inform with facts. I'm not emotional about it. You misrepresented to this body who believe in you. This one commissioner, I would have did the same thing she did because I'm not going to encroach on your land. You were very passionate, but you were inaccurate. And you talk about fairness? You weren't fair when you misrepresented everybody in here saying we were not for this project. You misrepresented the facts. You came here representing an HOA that you don't even meet with. Now, I'm not disputing that. I'm going to leave you and your community alone. But we got 4 communities in here, not just yours, wanting this project for our seniors, for our disabled. I have a child that's disabled mentally. And she can go in there. So anyway, I'm done with that. Thank you so much for your time. But yes, how many people are for this? Please stand. Please stand. I want you to see who's really for it. Let's stand. Let's stand. This is the community that we all represent. All of us want this project. Thank you, Commissioner. You were right on target. But as a former commissioner for this community and as a licensed planning and zoning commission, we have a right, Mr. Carter, to bring it back to the body of record. And they have a right to do what they want to do. And with all due respect, we would ask respectfully that you vote for this project to keep our community growing and your coffers growing as well. There are tax dollars involved. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, ma'am, you spoken.
I know, I just
It is-
wanted, it was one question that, about prior, road behind another street that's behind that house, if they had any, big plans to purchase it. It's in the same area though.
That's not a relevant. Yeah, thank you, that's something that we should. All right, at this time, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners, are there any questions from the body? Chair will entertain a motion.
motion to move it with the adjustments that Mike from zoning, add that to it.
Have a motion and a
Then I
second.
wanna speak to it, Mr. President.
Motion and a second, discussion, Commissioner
Thank you,
Scales.
thank you. First of all, everyone who is here on behalf of that, this specific community, I wanna thank you for coming to the meeting this morning. You have to speak up for your community. Let me make it very clear, this is, I am a commissioner of a body. This is not in quote unquote my district. If you see that I'm a little bit perturbed this morning, I'm gonna tell you why. I've been a neighborhood officer in Birmingham, and I remember clearly years ago, furthest east of Birmingham, we didn't have a concentration of multifamily units. We were told some similar things in terms of those things that would happen post the fact. And now we're having to struggle with some of the things that were built there later date. I asked the question in terms of what else, if this is rezoned, could be built there, okay? I'm asking for a purpose because I know once you change the purpose of a community, whatever comes is whatever has been voted on, which is a zoning change. I will say this, I'm gonna vote as I so choose. But that's why I kept asking the question as relates to who lives in proximity, even with me asking about the church. Is it a business transaction basically, or do you live in that area, okay? The same would apply if it was in any other part of the county. I'm hard-nosed about it because I believe that the citizens should have a voice. I believe that you gotta live there after the fact. What I don't like is that if any of this should not come to pass, I'm telling you that this developer, and I know a lot of times people try to blackball me because they'll take some of what I say out of context. I'm a business owner that understands business, but I'm also a commissioner that was elected by a body of people to protect human capital. So when it comes down to people, I'm gonna always look at that versus whatever money, because I promise you, all of us gonna get our names scraped off the door, and whatever you did or didn't do while you were in these offices, that's something that you're gonna have to live with. So me personally, this is probably a little bit more personal to me because I've been in a situation where, you tried to advocate on behalf of the community, but all of the propositions of what was going to happen seemed to rule the conversation of the day. And then when things happen, all of a sudden, so Mr. President, I'll just take a few seconds and I'll be done to say this. Huffman High School is a prime example of a high school less than 100 feet from a liquor store. That all of the commotion at that time was, we're going to tear it down, go on Old Springville Road right now. Only high school in the city of Birmingham, in the community where I live, less than 100 feet from a liquor store. The children have to look outside of the lunchroom, and you know what they're looking at? I don't want to call the name of the business, but Spirits is the second part of their name, okay? So all I'm saying to you, sir, because you were voting with them, you shouldn't have been voting. You are the applicant, right? They should have been voting. But if you don't do what you say, I'm just being honest with you, you've done them a disservice, okay? And I understand clearly when we talk about, we God-driven, we all of that, that's fine. All I want is whatever you put on this paper, whatever that has been agreed to by the county, that you do what you say you're gonna do. That's it, Mr. President.
All right, we have a motion and a
I'd like
second.
to address it too. I just want to say,
All right.
I was one of the ones that voted for this project initially. Housing for those 55 and older is a scarce commodity, not only in the county, but around the land. When people come in and want to put up apartments, we're very skeptical initially because of what the gentleman said. They come, they put it up, they're gone. It's left to the thing. I appreciate the fact that this entity apartments, work with the community. And Mr. Carter, I sympathize with your not wanting something in your backyard. Several years ago, in where I live, there was a proposal. I had woods behind my house, and now I have an elementary school. And I wasn't real happy about it, but I deal with it. And it's sometimes nice to hear your kids out there play. So, my vote won't change.
Okay. Call the question. Go ahead, call the roll. I think it'd be proper for this.
Commissioner Amos?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Aye.
Commissioner Scale?
Abstain.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes. Motion has passed. Thank you everyone for your participation here today. If you have other business to take care of, you can go ahead and proceed with that, or you can stay and do the rest of it. Certainly appreciate your participation today. Next item on the agenda is conditional use permit request for the Azure Tower and a Strata Stop Tower. Both by the same applicant. We'll begin with the Azure Tower. Requires a conditional use permit to allow construction of a 295 foot cellular communication tower on a section 24, township 19, zone C west. We have no opposition for that particular tower. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing for a case for the conditional use permit request. Is there anyone in the audience who would speak in favor of or in opposition to it?
And this is the Azure Tower, correct?
There,
If you answer questions.
Hearing done, public hearing is closed. Still have a quorum here. All right, you have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. It will take unanimous because there are only three here. Aye. Aye. It did pass. Let's go to number 2 now, which is another tower, conditional use for a 250 foot tower in 126 North Lane, Vesper, 35023.
Yes, so this is a request for a 250-foot cellular communication tower. Unique in this situation is this tower is actually in close proximity to another tower, but the amount of coverage that they could give to the community and to the roadway, they're requesting this tower, the additional tower, to enhance the coverage.
Yeah, someone has another mic out there. That's fine.
Okay.
I didn't get any trouble though. I didn't get any trouble. Okay. Well,
They recorded you, man.
yeah,
It's
I
good.
understand. All right, so we have. This is the tower. We have someone against this particular tower that is on the 0.13 acres in the Gilmore area. Please come up. You're not within 50 feet or 500 feet of it. So
500 feet.
you are within 500. You live within 500 feet.
I do not. I'm a lawyer that lives in Jefferson County. My client owns the tower and has a ground lease for that parcel, the other tower.
For the other tower.
Yes, sir.
So we have competing towers here.
We have one
Let's hear
tower
from you.
and an application for another tower.
This time I'd like to open the public hearing for this conditional use permit. Go ahead.
Thank you, and forgive me bringing information to you late, but before you decide this, I'm glad there's this open forum. My client is SBA. They got in touch with me. I'm Jamie Harris. I live at 19 Montevallo Lane, 35213. SBA is one of the biggest companies in the country that owns cell towers. They've got a cell tower that is 458 feet away from the one that's proposed. And for context, AT&T wants to have a tower basically in our backyard. Now, why do they want a tower there? They want a tower there because their other two towers are 4 miles away in Mud Creek and 3 miles away in Birmingport. So they want to put this right in the middle. Our tower is also right in the middle, just 400 feet apart. That's a quarter mile. Let me tell you a couple things real quick, and I know time is limited. I'm going to try to be efficient and direct, but I'm going to tell you information that you didn't have at the work session. And again, forgive me, my client just got in touch with me about this because they just happened to find out a little late.
Who owns the tower now that you're representing?
My client, SBA Communications. First off, let me give you a couple of visual aids, if you'll indulge me. I know the deadline was earlier.
And the question that I think the commission wants to, these will be competing towers. If indeed this tower is built, perhaps some of the lessees will move to the new tower. Is that what we're talking about?
They will be competing towers. And I'm here because my interest, SBA's interest, is the same as the citizens of the county. And we know what the citizens of the county want. What the citizens of the county want is stated in the regulations governing telecommunications facilities. And those set forth a very clear policy to discourage, I quote, discourage the unnecessary proliferation of telecommunications facilities and support structures. And it says, construction of new telecommunication towers will be an option of last resort. I'm here to tell you, you don't need a second tower. The application you were given did radio frequency studies, but they did them on our tower at 160 feet. So naturally, I'm not a scientist, but I figure if you broadcast higher, you get a better signal farther. Their tower, by the way, in the submissions I've just given you, is only FAA authorized 200 feet. Our tower is authorized up to 500 feet. It only sits at 200, and we have Verizon and Sprint above it right now. But contrary to the obligation under this zoning code, SBA was not asked for the opportunity to put AT&T in a tower. I communicated with the market manager for the state of Alabama. They have not heard anything from AT&T about this. Had they asked, and had we had the opportunity to show you before your work session, you would have what we have here, which shows you with the same structure, we can just go higher and put them on it. We could go to 250 feet, and what I've given you are radio frequency studies and an engineer's opinion that shows you that their tower at 250 feet and our tower, their proposed tower at 250 feet, and our tower at 250 feet are going to give a good signal, and you almost cannot tell the difference in the frequencies. And if they want to go a little bit higher, we can go a little bit higher. So the obligation not to build unnecessary towers, the obligation to prove in writing that they attempted co-location, which they didn't do, was not met. News to us, they want to build a tower in our backyard when the law says you're supposed to use the towers that are there. We can go higher, we can swap it out, and that's not a big deal. Tower swaps get done in a matter of hours or days. That could be done in no time. How high do they need it? We could put it right there. All right, I said it's the same interest as that of the citizens. SBA's is, my client's is. If there's only one tower, the citizens only have to look at one tower. And there's not a proliferation, and it's not the option of last resort. It's not an absolute necessity. There's only one tower. And the citizens also get their phones to work, where they need them to work, in that middle space between these two towers that are 6 miles apart. There's another problem with the application. In looking at your work session studies, and this is an easy mistake to make, but in the work study it shows that the residential setback applied the wrong standard. The residential setback for an administrative review is for shorter towers, and that was the 125% distance that was applied. This situation is a conditional use. Conditional uses require that there not be other residential structures within 200% of the height of the tower. In this instance, 500 feet. There are 3 of them. If you approve this tower, it violates the regulation. That was just a simple, honest mistake that got made in the work session. But if you increase the height of our tower, you don't get near those other structures. So it's not going to be a problem. You might ask about the practicality of raising our tower. I told you it could be done quickly. We're also at 43% of our structural capacity. It'd be very simple for us to increase the height of our tower. So, my position is that SBA's position is the same as that of the citizens. It discourages the proliferation of towers, gives everyone the cell signal that they want in this 7-mile stretch without AT&T, and it can be done in a matter of no time. Any question? Oh, and by the way, we will do it at competitive rates. And guess what? If we don't, they'll come back and make a pitch saying it's not economically feasible. But based on what's been presented to you, they have not proven that they can't co-locate, and they have not met the residential setback. It's due to be denied. Any questions?
Mr. Harris, why hasn't your company put up a tower that, why haven't they, you're ready to extend now, why haven't you done that before?
Nobody's asked us, including the applicant.
You know, I'll give you an analogy. I'm in the storage business. And if I had information that someone was gonna come and build a storage business close to me, and they were gonna requesting a zoning change, I would say, well, hold on just a second. I can make mine bigger, and you won't need that. And it would be a distraction to the community, and I see an analogy there that we have self-interest as our dominant motive, and I understand. Let's hear from the applicant, and the commission will make the
staff over here while he's here, just in case. Is this the first time that you've heard this? Did you have this information prior to today?
I had the information.
Or Michael?
No.
You did not have this
No.
information?
No. As stated in your report, and as I told you Tuesday, I was aware of our staff is aware of the other tower. And we made that point with you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, but the other day in the work session, we had, well, this is the coverage now.
Right.
And this is the coverage that the new tower would do. But you're saying your tower can do the same thing.
We can make it better.
we can make it.
I mean, if that's what they want, we'll go a little higher. They said there was I'll speak to that specifically. They said there was an elevation difference between the two of 20 feet. We can go to 270. Right now, we're FAA approved to 500. And within the county commission's authority, we can go to 300. So it can be done. We can give them what they need and give the citizens what they need. And you make an excellent point. You know, we should be pitching them extra capacity. We found out about it. I should have pitched them.
Should have pitched it.
And now that we know.
Once you're aware of it now, it's kind of like after the fact.
We just found out. We found out, what's today? Thursday, we found out Tuesday afternoon.
Is it cheaper for them to build a tower
Well, they haven't said what they want to rent it for, and I don't know the answer to that. I also don't know if they're gonna end up owning it or leasing it from third party. That's the more typical
Well,
scenario.
it looks like you need to be talking to them.
And we'd love to, but we just found out about this.
Michael, would the notification have gone to SBA as well?
No, they would just go to the property owner.
The property owners that own the tower.
That on the land that you're leasing?
Correct.
I got you.
Them-
Right. So
We're on a ground lease from the Morrows.
from who?
The Morrow family.
Morrow family? The Morrows received this and you didn't get any.
I don't know if they received it. We actually just made a general call to the county to see if there were any new applications and found out about this one and found out about the Thursday afternoon.
Okay. Thank you. Who gave this to?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, my name is Andy Rotenstrike here on behalf of AT&T. Let's take a step back and see why AT&T is even here. This is to get better coverage for the residents, the travelers, and the businesses in this area. That's why we're here. In order to do that, the first thing AT&T does is look for existing towers that can work. This one did not work. AT&T is on thousands of SBA towers across the country. We know SBA well. But if the tower can't get the signal we need to the residents, then we can't use it. And that's what happened here.
Why couldn't they get
The height. And that was the propagation map you mentioned earlier. That showed the difference. So now, last minute, with the Morrows getting the notice, who are their landlords, who they communicate with regularly, them showing up at the last minute to try and thwart the effort is a little disingenuous. This is strictly about competition and a monopoly. If they can convince you to deny AT&T, they have a monopoly. Now, they're going to have to try and come to you and try and raise their tower. We're building a tower tall enough for their current tenants to get on this tower if they wish. So at the end of the day, there still can only be one tower. That's up to their tenants. I don't know what their relationship is with them, but it's available. We have met the ordinance. Staff has reviewed it. They rank a recommendation for approval, saying we've met the ordinance. The one thing I'd like to also point out is who's not here, and that's the citizens in opposition. They are not. We've been here before. You've seen citizens show up. They want the coverage there. They need the coverage there. That's why AT&T is proposing this tower. The community's not in opposition. This site will have, if allowed to be built, the latest technology in 5G. It'll also have the FirstNet capability for the sheriff's department and the fire department and EMA. AT&T's interests are here for the citizens, not SBA. SBA is here for their pocket and their monopoly. All we want is to be treated the same way SBA was treated when they got approved. That's all we're asking for. You have an ordinance, we meet the ordinance, your planning department says we meet the ordinance, and we would request approval.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you're not trying to get their customers.
No, ma'am. AT&T is in the business of getting their signal out. Who gets on the towers they're not actively in the business of renting space. But if your concern is there are going to be two towers there, I think in the future there's a chance that their customers may want to come to our tower, but we're not out there soliciting that.
And that goes to my concern. Now you got a pretty new tower, and you got, what would happen to the old tower?
It would come down under your ordinance. It's required to come down if it's abandoned.
And the new tower is the better tower, so their customers.
Better signal for everybody, not just AT&T. If Verizon and Sprint, he said, who are apparently their customers now, they want to get a higher elevation, fine. But this is for AT&T and AT&T customers, but it can benefit other customers down the road.
Did I hear you correctly? You said that tower was abandoned?
No, ma'am.
It would be.
If the other carriers decided to come to the new tower, then it would be. I don't know that they're going to.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience? Public hearing is now.
I'll speak briefly to those points of these very.
Well, we're in a courtroom. I guess this is.
You have 2 minutes for both.
Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. First thing.
Overruled.
I would say, yes, we're here at the 11th hour. It's not our burden to show that we tried to co-locate on another tower. They're supposed to prove that to you in writing. And what did they do? They showed you a half truth. They showed you a tall tower compared to a short tower. Had they been honest with you, they'd have showed you two tall towers and the fact they don't need a new tower. And that's where we would be. As far as a monopoly, if they don't like our prices, they can come right back here under your statute and say there's an economic burden. That wasn't part of their presentation. That's a standard provision in these zoning regulations. If it's an economic burden to go on another tower, they don't have to do it. They haven't even gone there. So to say that we're going to have a monopoly is completely false. We're there. If it's too expensive, they'll come back to see you later. That's the way your regulations are designed.
Thank you. Public hearing is now closed. Question from the body.
I'd have a question for staff.
Staff?
And are with what's been brought up today, are you comfortable with providing information now, or do you need more time to research anything, or are you willing to speak to it now, or legal counsel?
Well, again, upon, my review of the site, I noticed that there was another tower in close proximity, and that's when I got with the applicant, and I was just like, hey, why are we not co-located? And that's when they provided the coverage maps that's in your packet that shows the difference of, if we co-locate at this height, this is our coverage range. If we build this tower at this height, this is our coverage range. And so, it's on their burden to justify that. And so I just presented that information for you, whether or not you feel like that's justified or not. That's your decision to make.
Well, in the work session of the tree commission, it looked like we had a map that says this is the coverage without this zoning change, but this will be the coverage with the zoning change. So it was kind of like, now we're I think we're entering a dangerous precedent, because now I don't want to see this start coming up regularly that, hey, we got a tower war over here and a tower war over there. Mr. President, I'd like to pass this and let it come back to, if there's more information so that we can see a comparison other than what we got the other day. Just to be.
What sort of information do you
The
want?
coverage information.
The coverage information?
Yeah, I mean, we got this, and this is green and yellow and red and stuff. I don't even know.
Right.
Yeah, Commissioner, I believe that the covering information is correct, and the additional coverage information is from the increase in the height of the tower.
Correct. Yeah, and those maps
So,
are in your packet.
in order to alter the coverage area that you see, these folks that have the existing tower would have to raise their tower to a different level, which does not exist right now. And that would change the coverage map.
Correct.
Okay.
And then
So there's
So that'd
more.
be equal coverage, basically.
Right. This is what they submitted as their coverage would be if they were co-located. You see, that's the difference in the area, which only gets all the way to that intersection.
Right.
And then this shows you the difference in deficiencies. But that's what I've got from them already.
Is
I don't know if that's-
But that's based on the 200 versus the 250.
That's based on the 250. Yes.
So if the old tower went to 250, then the coverage would be the same.
If the old tower went to 250, that would be, we would have to see an additional map on that, which we'd have to ascertain from
So
one of the two.
we only have the current height.
Correct.
That's the current height.
I provided the maps comparing the current height, the proposed height, and how it's. That's what I have.
All right.
Okay.
So those maps that he presented did not come from AT&T. That is not AT&T's information. So those maps are inaccurate.
And folks, if I may, I don't have a horse in this race, but I do drive a school bus in this area. I start picking up kids at 6:05. Most of my route, I run with a cell phone that says no service.
Yes.
I did not come for this hearing,
All right.
but I'm gonna tell you, people
But
don't
I'll
care.
tell you what, let's do it. Let's stand up, let's state our name and our address and whether we're for or against.
Reopening the public hearing.
I think you're gonna close the public hearing? Okay. I ain't closed it.
My
Okay.
name's Ernest Martin, I live at 5557 Pleasant View Road in Azure, drive a school bus to Oak Grove. And we deal with this every day, trying to get a hold of parents. We can't let kids off, small kids off, where we can't see somebody. And you may have to drive 10 or 15 minutes before you can get a signal to even try to call a parent or get back in touch with the school.
In this area?
In
we're
this
talking
exact
about?
area, I've heard Mud Creek Road mentioned.
Okay.
Halfway down Mud Creek Road from Adger Kimball's Grocery till you get to Lock 17 Road, your cell phone will say no signal. And I think this is the area that we're talking about.
What service? You
I'll be on Verizon, and then I also have Southern Link radio in the bus.
And I can verify that because I traveled that area this past week.
Correct. And, like I say, I don't want a horse in that race, but I am here and I do bring you that knowledge. People don't care about two tires. We just need a way to communicate. My wife has worked for a major insurance company for 35 years, working from home. She is having to retire because they went to some software that the cell service out there is so slow. She can't work from home.
And we're trying to fix that today.
Thank you.
That's a very important point. Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing. Do we have a motion? No one wants?
I'll kind of give where I am. I think this is a lot of information to bring. I understand, the footprints, and another tower does concern me in setting a precedent and having two towers up.
For wars.
But this also comes kind of last minute, and not really an opportunity to really look at it and dive into it, to understand it. So I'd hate to make a decision based on information we just received in conversation with 10 to 20 minutes.
Have the people live in that area been contacted about, a public hearing
Yes, ma'am.
about two towers?
Yes, ma'am. Well, about this tower request.
Does anybody live
Not
within
about the two
500 feet of there?
This one, yes.
Okay. But
Well, actually, we sent the notice out, for this request. We sent it to the maximum extent of the building setbacks that would be required. So for this one, we sent everybody within 700 feet, a notice.
I do also get the gentleman's issue that the school bus driver, and understand that coverage is absolutely needed. It's a public safety, it's a public safety concern. And I get it that it's needed sooner than later. I get it on both sides. But from us to make better decisions and not knee-jerk reactions, and I think I would prefer that we give them an opportunity to work with staff on, bringing us maybe more information or being able to work together on what that might look like. And it may take a little bit longer and may not get the cell phone service quite as quickly, but I think in the long term we make better decisions.
Let me ask this, Mr. President, County Attorney, if, I know that we have to publish these, public notices. If we delay this, item until more information, or certain things are resolved and we can have more intelligence about this matter, but we have to republish the notification regarding this if we just recessed on this item as opposed to closing it out altogether?
It depends on what you want to do. I think at this juncture, you don't have an issue that's a public hearing matter where you have concern with citizens. What you have is information, is table information that would not be provided by the citizens. So your public hearing is closed, so what you could do is you could then carry it over to review the information you have without having to do any additional public hearing before you make a decision.
But then,
which is my motion.
then, Ms.
I'll say
second,
All right.
because I was just saying that.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Before we vote on that, I'd like to say that this, I hear you. I understand. I have the same problem when this is right in the middle of District 3. And there is no cell coverage down there. And it's more than that. It's hard for the ambulances to get what they need to do, and the volunteer fire departments to understand and get what they need to do. So I want to remind this commission, if we do put it on, we need to address it as quickly as possible, because it is a public safety issue.
Well, absolutely.
And I would appreciate us doing that. So with that being
Well,
said,
Mr. President, we need to have a special call meeting.
End of the day, I'm gonna say this, at the end of the day, we're gonna have a 250-foot tower, I don't know whose it's gonna be, but we're gonna have a 250-foot tower for that gentleman, for that very reason right there, because that concerns me more about who's got what.
If you lived out there and you needed an ambulance,
you need it now, don't
we
you?
don't need it next week.
I understand.
We
I
need it
understand.
yesterday.
I understand, but let us, I still think we just need a little bit more.
Can I ask a question
From everybody.
we vote?
Sure.
Can this be done in 2 weeks before our next commission meeting, so we can take this up again at the next commission?
Oh, I would absolutely request that.
If the question is for us, we'll do everything we can.
Can you
Have
answer
it
both?
built in 2 weeks.
We have it built in 2 weeks? Sure.
If it's
Yeah,
approved
what-
today,
what
I
we-
can have
what-
the building permit submitted in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I can't promise it's built in 2 weeks, we don't have a tenant yet, but
I wanna-
with Andy
And from both of you, I think it'd be a good idea if you can have us a timeline of when we can have tower. Not a permit, a tower.
Today, if you approve it.
You can't have a tower today. I mean, you're good, but I'm not sure.
The request is for us to have it on the next agenda, and you guys have information to Michael,
Yes.
so we can
Sure.
have, and he can give it to us.
Jamie and I know each other well, we're happy to do that.
Okay.
Whatever works.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. LeGardo, we need to call the roll on this.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Aye.
Commissioner Scales?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson? Commissioner Stevens?
No, I think it needs to be done. Represent the citizens.
Well,
All right,
we're not representing the citizens. I don't know about that.
Well, we want to represent the citizens informatively.
Commissioners, you have 71 resolutions. Is there any that a particular commissioner would like to pull for separate consideration of vote?
Yes, Mr. President, I have several.
Several.
Items 8 and 9, and then items 13 through 13 through 44. 8, 9, 13 through 44.
Okay. Will the chair will entertain a motion to vote for remaining items? All right, we have a motion to approve 1 through 13, save 8 and 9, or 1 through 12, save 8 and 9, and then, the remaining items, 41 through, 71.
I think she's.
Commissioner, I'll entertain a motion from you.
Who's gonna name?
I think it's
But
45.
you're the one that made it.
Yeah, that's fine. Then, I move that, we affirm or approve items,
Did we have a vote on the other items?
We did a roll call vote.
No, I'm talking about the 13th. I thought we was trying to get to 45 through 70.
No, we're just trying to get
Okay,
the
1 through
proper
7.
resolution. I want to make sure.
yeah, 1 through 71, with the exception of items 8, 9, and then 13 through 44.
Okay, there's a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, Commissioner Scales.
Yes, sir.
Item eight,
Matter of fact, they're companion, so we can take up.
8 and 9.
8 and 9, Mr. President. Reason why I wanted that item to be set aside and properly voted on, I want to publicly, commend Commissioner Tyson for her support of this game. We've been talking about different things, as it relates to good things coming to Jefferson County. And, even though our support, went through the Bruno Foundation, I did wanna make sure, because I think that needs to be stated on the record, her commitment through dollars that are coming through her district, to not just support the game, she's really supporting the schools, and I just didn't want that to be overlooked. I know that, Dr. Prim in my office, yourself, both A&M alumni, and I think it's very important that those schools receive what I think has been traditional for Jefferson County in the past. That when certain schools played in this area before they went to their own stadiums, that they were properly supported. And I wanted to make sure that that she receives that credit for that. That is to be commended, especially when you're giving out of your own district funds. This is not coming out of general fund. And I wanted to say that, and that is that, and then we can entertain a motion on that item. Also, on items 13 through 44, there was an ask of the commission as relates, and I hope, Helen, that you will put that out there for the public also, for 15,000 additional dollars to go for our senior centers in Jefferson County. I believe that too has been the work of the body. Appreciate the chairman for entertaining that, and we as a body. And I didn't want that to be overlooked either, Mr. President, that our seniors are getting some support that was initially underfunded, and now they're being properly funded. So I don't see Dr. Hamilton in here about that, but nevertheless, I think that too is to be commended. So out of everything that has gone on this morning, I think that those are two items that really need to get out before the public, so that people know that we all as a body really care about people and their education. So that's it, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Chair, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Yep, second.
Motion to second.
Mr. President, we have a roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Aye.
Commissioner Scales?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
All right. You ready for items 13 through 44, Mr. President?
I thought we did that.
44.
Second.
Okay. You see you moving? Go ahead, Mr. President, come on, call for the vote.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
All right, anything else before the body and you did?
Come on.
Go ahead, Mr. President.
All right, I understand. Any new business? All right, so, Commissioner Tyson, what you put on?
I just wanted to thank David, Bernard, and Roads and Transportation, for attending the town hall meeting we had Monday at Shade Grove Baptist Church, and thanks to the sheriff, Petway, and the Bessemer Police Department for actually coming out. We had a lot of people to come out. They gave great information, and the citizens was very pleased when they left. And the app that you gave us, the paperwork, they really loved it. So I thank you so much.
Mr. Allen?
Went down to Montgomery on Tuesday to visit with Dr. Harris, to talk about the ambulance issue and EMS. It was a very good conversation this is one of the final meetings that we had to kind of wrap things up. So hopefully at our next work session, we'll be able to deliver some information, and I may want to visit with each one of you individually before we kind of publish our findings and next steps.
Mr. Scales?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to let us be aware as a body, that, there's an event that's going on next Wednesday, that is going to bring the president of the National Association of County Commissioners, Ms. Denise Winfrey. We all had the opportunity, to meet her. She is coming, to Birmingham on next Wednesday. I think she's gonna be here for 2 days. I would encourage, all of us to try to make sure that she knows us by name. I think that there's some great work that is going on in the, NACO. We got our president-elect that's getting ready to be, hopefully next year, president of ACCA. So just wanted to make sure that everyone knew, about that. Again, for those that are in the sound of my voice, we got, a big game that's coming up next week. 2 institutions that I think that should be, supported as much as possible. And Mr. President, I think that that's basically all that I have, but I just wanted to make sure that, that we knew as a body that, that we are being looked at very closely as relates to, the National Association. And, we're just glad to be able to have President, Winfrey here on next week.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Knight?
I had the privilege of meeting President Winfrey at the ACCA, very awesome lady. I just want to say, today we did something, we had the battles, we had the back and forth, but we did something today that we've kind of gotten away from over the last few years, and that's recognizing our employees, giving those special recognitions to those 5 people that stood up here 30 years at this place. Man, that's awesome. And through the thick and thin, through all the politics, through all the BS, through everything, those guys never faltered. They kept their head, their shoulders to the ground, doing the work that they do every single day, even in the heat. And I just want to thank you, Cal, for bringing that kind of a tradition back, because that's so important, because sometimes we get lost in our own little world and forget that who truly runs this county, and that's the people every day that come to work and put their heart and soul into it. And again, thanks for that.
Okay, I appreciate everyone's indulgence. This meeting has gone a little bit longer than we normally have with our meetings, and certainly do help. Did you need, you understand that? Okay, I'm sorry.
Stretch.
Yeah, you can stretch it. I guess it's about time, isn't it?
And we have
I said it was.
investment employees today,
Flu shot for investment employees today.
in the annex building.
In the annex building, you will need flu shots.
They lined up now.
They're lined up, ready to go. I just appreciate everyone that indulged. Management staff, appreciate you. Commissioners, I appreciate each and one input that you give. It's always varied, it's always thoughtful, and we always go through this process, and the body speaks as a whole, and I certainly do appreciate that. With that being said,